Alright, so now let's find the foci of an ellipse. Before we saw that the foci were equal to either 0c or c0, but what we can see is this picture, we can see why it's that. So we can find this with the help of the vertices and the covertices. Notice that we're saying that the distance from this point to one focus is A. And then the distance from the point to the origin is going to be denoted with a B. And then the distance from the origin to the focus is C. Well, you should see that we are creating this right triangle right here. And we know that with right triangles, we can write the equation, the Pythagorean theorem, and we can write that b squared plus c squared is equal to a squared, according to our diagram. Normally we think of it as a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but it's the leg times the leg, the leg squared plus the leg squared is equal to the hypotenuse squared. So b squared plus c squared is equal to a squared. So if I want to solve for c, then I'm going to subtract b squared on each side, and I'll get that c squared is equal to a squared minus b squared. And then just to solve for c, all I need to do is take the square root of each side. And then I'll see the value for my distance between my focus and the origin. Alright, so let's look at this example. It says, what are the foci of the ellipse with the equation 25x squared plus 9y squared equals 225? Graph the foci and the ellipse. Well, the first thing we're going to want to do is rewrite this in standard form. This is supposed to be, our equation is supposed to be equal to 1, and it's not. So I'm going to go ahead and divide each of my terms by 225 to make my equation equal to 1. So doing that, and simplifying, I'm going to get x squared over, and then 25 over 225, that's going to reduce to 1 over 9, plus 9y squared over 225 reduces to y squared over 25 is equal to 1. Alright, and I see that underneath y squared is 25, which is bigger than 9. So this tells me that I'm going to have a vertical ellipse, that my major axis is going to be on my y-axis. So I know that my a squared is 25 and my b squared is equal to 9. And I know this because a is always going to be on my major axis and b will always be on my minor axis. And since a is on my major, then my a value will always be greater than my b value. So a squared is 25, and now I can plug these in to find c squared. So c squared is equal to 25 minus 9, so c squared is equal to 16, and therefore c is equal to plus or minus 4. Alright, so now I can go ahead and I can graph my foci and my ellipse. Now I said this was a vertical ellipse. My center is at 0, 0. I know a, if a squared is 25, then a is 5. And since this is a vertical ellipse, from my center I can go up 5 and make an endpoint, and then go down 5 and make my endpoint. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My minor axis, my b squared, is 9, so b is 3. So my endpoints here are 3, 0, and negative 3, 0. And here's my ellipse. It also wants me to graph my foci. My foci is along my major axis, so I'm going to denote this in blue. So from my center, I'm just going to go up 4, and I'm going to go down 4. So here's my graph of my vertical ellipse with this equation. Alright, so I want you to try to do the same thing. What are the foci of the ellipse with the equation 36x squared plus 100y squared equals 3600? Graph the foci and the ellipse. Alright, our last slide. Now we're going to use the foci of an ellipse. Our example says, what is the standard form equation of the ellipse shown? Well, I can see that we have a horizontal ellipse. I see my endpoints at -8, 0 and 8, 0. So this tells me that A is equal to 8. I also have my foci there at -5, 0 and 5, 0. So that tells me C is equal to 5. Now I know that A squared then is equal to 64 and C squared is equal to 25. Since this is a horizontal ellipse, my standard form is going to be x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared is equal to 1. What I need to find is my b squared. So I can use the equation from before, where c squared is equal to a squared minus b squared. I'll write that down. C squared is equal to a squared minus b squared. So plugging in what I know, 25 is equal to 64 minus b squared. Subtracting 64 to the other side, I get -39 is equal to -b squared. Therefore, b squared is equal to positive 39. So now I can go ahead and substitute in. I know a squared is 64. I know b squared is 39. So my standard form equation for the ellipse shown will be x squared over 64 plus y squared over 39 is equal to 1. Alright, so your last U try. Go ahead, work it out. Make sure you write down any questions that you have, and I'll be sure to answer them in class tomorrow. Thanks.